Hi, and welcome to Celebration Bar Review. As we're recording today, we're within a couple of weeks of the bar exam, but my message today isn't really one that is necessarily responding to a particular date in the calendar or time. But it is a question that I tend to get a lot near the end, and that has to do with who are the bar exam graders and what are they looking for when you're writing essays. And in truth, I don't think it matters what jurisdiction we're talking about, whether it's a big jurisdiction like California or New York or a smaller jurisdiction. I think there's a certain commonality in all of this. But for our purposes today, I want to describe to you what I think the bar grader should look like in your mind. I'm not obviously suggesting that this is what they are so much as what it should look like, because one of the keys to good writing is having your audience in mind. If you are writing a letter to a client, that's certainly a different audience than writing a brief to a judge or a memo to a partner in the law firm. If you're drafting something that's going to be a closing argument to a jury, a group of lay people, that's clearly different than a letter to opposing counsel. And so knowing your audience is a critical part of good legal writing. It's a good part of any writing. But one of the problems is it seems to be difficult for bar takers to really get an accurate picture of what the bar grader looks like. So I scoured my archives and I looked around, and it finally hit me that I had the nearly perfect picture of the way that I would like my students to think about the bar grader. And hopefully through the magic of technology, you're going to see that in front of you. Now, trying to figure out, who is this guy? And if you're of a certain age, you know immediately that that's Beaker from the Muppets. If you are not of a certain age, it's Beaker from the Muppets. And you may need some interpretation from a Muppet-friendly source. I don't know if that's older or younger. Why Beaker? Well, there's a couple of things about Beaker that I really like that I think applies to a bar grader. First of all, Beaker is the hardworking, underappreciated, and really not much thought of character. If you remember anything about the Muppets, Beaker's the one that runs around going beep, 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 and stuff blows up in Beaker's face, and Dr. What is his name? Dr. Whatever is the one that gets all the credit and is the brilliant, wise man. Bar graders don't get much credit. By and large, they are people who are doing this work either because they've been asked to do it as part of their professional climb through the legal industry, that is to say that they're second or third year associates in big law who are doing this as part of their work for the Bar Association and for their firm. That's very typical. Sometimes they are people who are out of work and need some extra money. Precious little, to be honest, but there are some of those folks out there. And lest you be taken in by the people who claim that their credential to teach the bar is that they're a former bar grader, you need to know that in order to be a bar grader in most jurisdictions, including big ones like California, Florida, New York, you need to have passed the bar at least on your second try. In other words, you could have failed the bar and still be a bar grader. You need to have been a member of the bar for 1 year. And that's it. That's the sum total of your requirements and expertise. So don't get too wrapped around the pole when somebody tells you that they're a bar grader. It's really not quite all that glamorous. But more to the point is that Beaker is always looking frazzled, and of course the hairstyle I love. And he's always sort of realizing that things are about to explode and unable to do much about it. Bar graders are much the same way. They are typically working long hours, very often, certainly if they're in big law, they're doing this on top of their billables. And so the bar essays to be graded are generally done mornings, early, evenings, late, in difficult locations, often after many cups of coffee. And so if you can picture in your mind a bar grader who's got hair like Beaker's because they've been, over-caffeinated, and I think that helps. They're also sort of attention deficit disordered. They're not going to spend very long with your essay. Typically, you're going to find that a bar grader will give you maybe 3 to 5 minutes per essay. And you think to yourself, well, gosh, that's not enough. I mean, I wrote all this good stuff. That's true. But when you've read hundreds of answers to the same question, you don't need a long time to read an answer. You get a pretty good sense of it pretty quickly, even if you're, a second-time bar passing, $3.10 per book paid bar grader. And by the way, that's what they do get paid. That's the actual payment in California. That person is having a real hard time focusing and concentrating. Now, what does that mean for you as a writer? Well, I think that the obvious point here is that you have to be very reader-friendly. You want to be clear and simple and direct. You want to use active voice. You don't want to be too wordy. You want to get right to the point. You want to be organized and predictable. This reader doesn't have time to pull apart your issue spotting Iraq craziness to figure out where the gems are in your answer. Then they're not going to do it. It's just not part of their job description. The problem is that a lot of people, as bar takers, tend to think that their bar grader is going to look like their favorite professor from law school. You know, sitting in the leather stuffed chair in their office, smoking their pipe, and I realize this is sexist, but that's my picture, stroking their beard and thinking to themselves as they read your work, oh, what an incredible piece of legal insight. This student just blows me away. Well, that might have happened in law school. I hope it did. But the reality is that the bar taker looks like Beaker. And the bar grader looks like Beaker, more to the point, and doesn't care. It's not about the wisdom and the insight. It's, did you get to the right point in the answer? Did you explain your reasoning? Did you use the law? Not did you memorize and recite, not did you throw out enough legal terms, not did you use enough flashcard words. That's just so ridiculous. As to be painful when I see people do it. And then they fail and fail and fail doing it, and they say, no, I don't understand why I'm failing. Well, it's because you're doing the wrong thing. The reader doesn't care about that stuff. The reader wants simple, straight, clear use of the law, supporting the arguments in a logical, organized way. Not all that tough. If you do that, if you think about that reader as being Beaker, I think you got a much better chance of writing an essay that's actually going to work, instead of writing a bunch of issues, a bunch of rules, a bunch of memorized law, throwing it all together in one long run-on stream of consciousness paragraph, and hoping that there's enough crap in there that somebody will pick it up and give you a passing score. You know, if you really think about your reader, if you're a good writer and you're reader-friendly, you're always going to have an advantage over someone, even if they know more law than you do, more issues, more whatever you want to call it. If they're not reader-friendly, if their handwriting is illegible, if they look like Beaker and write like Beaker, you've got a problem. And so I think it's really important to keep a straightforward approach, keep your reader in mind, get a picture of what you think a bar exam grader looks like and post it on your computer while you're studying. It'll help you when you're writing to have that visualization. So with all apologies to the Muppets, I hope that you appreciate this idea and that it helps you as you're focusing in getting ready to write your essays on the exam. Have a good time and try not to blow up the lab while you're working, okay?